The House That Kept Calling Back, Part 1. Evelyn Moore had been a 911 dispatcher for 11 years. And in that time, she had learned one thing faster than anything else. People lied. Not always because they wanted to. Sometimes because they were panicking. Sometimes because they were drunk. Sometimes because they were too ashamed to say what was really happening. Sometimes they called because they were lonely. Sometimes they called because they were cruel. Sometimes they called because they wanted to hear another human voice before doing something permanent. And sometimes they called from places that made no sense. The night it started, it was raining over most of northern Missouri. Not hard, not dramatic, just the kind of steady, patient rain that turned parking lots into black mirrors and made every highway look abandoned. Inside the county communications center, the fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead. The coffee in Evelyn's paper cup had been cold for almost an hour. Her headset pressed against one ear. A stack of half-finished incident forms sat near her elbow. 3 monitors lit her face in pale blue. It was 2:18 in the morning, the dead hour. Not midnight, not 3 a.m. This was the hour when bars had already emptied. Arguments had already escalated. Drunks had already decided whether they were driving home or sleeping in their cars. This was the hour when the adrenaline dropped out of the night, and what remained was stranger. The call came in on line 4. No ringing tone, no waiting, just an abrupt click in her headset, and then breathing. Very light breathing. Evelyn straightened in her chair and hit the intake key. County Emergency Services. What is your location? No answer. Only the breathing. She glanced at the caller ID field. It had already populated. That was the first odd thing. The number field was blank, but the address field wasn't. 148 County Line Road. She frowned. Normally, the system built one from the other. If no valid number came through, location data was usually incomplete, delayed, or wrong. But here, the address had appeared instantly, as if the house itself had called. "Can you hear me?" she said. "If you need police, medical, or fire, I need you to speak." The breathing stopped. Then a voice came on. A little girl's voice. Very small, very calm. "Is my mother still in the hallway?" Evelyn didn't answer for half a second. Not because she was surprised, because training overrode surprise. What is your name?" The little girl ignored the question. "Can you tell me if she's still looking at my door?" The voice was not crying. That was what Evelyn noticed first. Children in danger cried, whispered, stammered, froze up, babbled. This one sounded like she had already been afraid for a very long time, and was now past fear. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Static rustled faintly in the line. Then, she said if I called again, she'd hear it in the walls. Evelyn opened a dispatch window on her second monitor and began typing while she spoke. Possible domestic, possible child caller, unknown threat in residence. "What's your name?" she repeated. "And Is your mother hurt? For the first time, there was a change in the child's breathing. Not faster, not shakier, closer, as if she had leaned toward the phone. That isn't my mother. Very long. Evelyn sent the location ping to the nearest deputy unit without taking her hand off the keyboard. Unit 16 to welfare check / possible child in distress. 148 County Line Road. The deputy assigned to the zone, Collins, acknowledged almost immediately. Unit 16, en route, ETA 12, as Evelyn kept her voice steady. Okay, listen to me carefully. I've got someone on the way. I need you to stay where you are. Are you locked in a room? There was a silence on the line so total that Evelyn wondered if the call had dropped. Then the little girl said, I was. Something moved in the background, a soft sound, like wood settling or someone putting weight on an old floorboard. Very carefully, Evelyn looked down at the audio meter on her console. The line was still open. The ambient pickup was stronger now. She could hear rain, faintly. A clock ticking somewhere in the house, and beneath both of those, something else. A damp, dragging sound. Not footsteps, exactly. Something slower than footsteps. Are you still in your bedroom? Evelyn asked. No. Where are you now? In the laundry room. Is there a lock on the door? Yes. Good. Keep it locked. It doesn't matter, the girl said. Evelyn typed another note into the incident log. Caller states subject is not mother hiding in laundry room. Unknown threat in hallway. What's your name? This time, the answer came. Madeline. Oh, Madeline. My name is Evelyn. I'm going to stay on the line with you until the deputy gets there. I need you to tell me how old you are. 8. Oh, okay. And are you injured? Another silence. Then, not anymore. Long. The dragging sound came again. Closer. Madeline's breathing remained unnaturally even. Evelyn, she asked quietly, do deputies know how to tell if someone has the right face? A different operator, 2 stations down, turned and glanced at Evelyn without speaking. Not because she had heard the caller, because she had heard Evelyn go quiet. Evelyn pressed her free hand flat against the desk to steady herself. Madeline, I need you to listen to me. When the deputy arrives, he'll identify himself. He'll knock on the front door. He'll announce that he's law enforcement. No, Madeline said. Why no? Because she can do voices now. Evelyn's eyes moved to the unit map. Collins's cruiser icon was moving north along Route 47, 9 minutes out. She had handled site calls before. Children caught in custody fights, paranoid grandparents, schizophrenic callers who insisted their neighbors were wearing skin. Every category had a shape to it. A pattern. This didn't. There was something about the girl's voice that unsettled her, precisely because it was too controlled, too literal, too free of the usual emotional noise. Madeline, Evelyn said carefully, Has this happened before? Yes. And how many times? I don't know. When did it start? When the child answered, her tone hadn't changed, but something in the room around her had. The sound of the rain had faded. The clock had stopped. It started after the first time she came home without blinking. Evelyn's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She typed exactly what she heard, then deleted the sentence, then typed it again. Collins came over the radio. Dispatch, Unit 16, 2 minutes out. Evelyn keyed her mic. Copy. Child caller advises possible impersonation. Use caution. There was a beat of silence before Collins responded, then a short, humorless exhale. Impersonation? Unknown context, Evelyn said. Treat as active threat. Copy. Madeline had heard him through the open mic. Was that him? Yes, Evelyn said. That was the deputy. Can you ask him not to look in the upstairs bathroom mirror? Evelyn felt a cold pressure spread under her ribs. Why? Madeline answered immediately. Because that's how it learns who arrived. Very long. The line hissed softly. Then, in the background, from somewhere beyond the laundry room door, a woman's voice called. Madeline? Evelyn's scalp tightened. The voice was warm, normal, almost tired. A mother checking on a child after a bad dream. Madeline, honey, who are you talking to? The little girl didn't respond. Neither did Evelyn. The voice came again, a little closer to the door now. Madeline, open the door. You're scaring me. Evelyn watched the audio meter spike and fall. The woman's tone was perfect, not theatrical, not obviously wrong. If you hadn't heard the child first, you would have believed it. Madeline, Evelyn whispered, forgetting protocol. Don't answer her. She knows your name now, the girl whispered back. Then the woman outside the laundry room said, in Evelyn's exact voice, Madeline, don't answer her. As very long. Every sound in the dispatch center seemed to go distant. Keyboards, phones, police banned traffic, rain against the windows. All of it receded behind the blood rushing in Evelyn's ears. On the line, nobody breathed. Then Collins came over the radio again. Dispatch, Unit 16, on scene. Evelyn keyed her mic at once. Do not enter the residence alone. Repeat, do not enter alone. Wait for secondary. But Collins was already talking over her. Front doors open. Collins, hold position. Dispatch, I've got lights on inside. No movement at the front. Hold position. There was a pause, long enough for Evelyn to imagine him standing on the porch, rain on his shoulders, peering into a lit farmhouse through an open door. Then I hear a woman crying. Madeline made a tiny sound in Evelyn's ear. Not a sob. Recognition. That's the bathroom, she whispered. Collins, Evelyn said sharply, step back from the residence. No answer. Unit 16, acknowledge. only open carrier hiss. Long. Then Collins spoke again, but his voice was wrong. Not distorted, just absent in a way, as if the rhythm of his speech had been preserved, but the person inside it had been removed. Dispatch. I have visual on occupant. Evelyn sat completely still. Describe. A. 3-second silence. 5. Then, it's looking at me from upstairs. Evelyn felt every muscle in her shoulders lock. Who is looking at you? Then Collins said, very softly, me. Very long. The radio cut to static. At the exact same moment, Madeline gasped for the first time. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just one sharp intake of breath. It hurt him, she said. What hurt him? Evelyn asked. But the girl didn't answer. There was a bang on the laundry room door, once, heavy enough to shake the hinges. Then another, then a woman's voice, back to the mother's voice, called from right outside the door. Madeline, baby, open up. The deputy says everything is fine. Evelyn grabbed her supervisor with one hand and pointed at the open incident screen. By the time the supervisor reached her station, Evelyn was already dispatching a second and third unit. Officer down, possible. Immediate response, 148 County Line Road. The banging on Madeline's door stopped. A wet, dragging sound replaced it. Moving away, out of the room. There was a pause, long enough for Evelyn to imagine him standing on the porch, rain on his shoulders, peering into a lit farmhouse through an open door. Then I hear a woman crying. Madeline made a tiny sound in Evelyn's ear. Not a sob. Recognition. That's the bathroom, she whispered. Collins, Evelyn said sharply. Step back from the residence. No answer. Unit 16. Acknowledge. Only open carrier hiss. Long. Then Collins spoke again, but his voice was wrong. Not distorted, just absent in a way, as if the rhythm of his speech had been preserved, but the person inside it had been removed. Dispatch. I have visual on occupant. Evelyn sat completely still. Describe. A. 3-second silence. 5. Then, it's looking at me from upstairs. Evelyn felt every muscle in her shoulders lock. Who is looking at you? Then Collins said, very softly, me. Very long. The radio cut to static. At the exact same moment, Madeline gasped for the first time. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just one sharp intake of breath. It hurt him, she said. What hurt him? Evelyn asked. But the girl didn't answer. There was a bang on the laundry room door, once, heavy enough to shake the hinges. Then another, then a woman's voice, back to the mother's voice, called from right outside the door. Madeline, baby, open up. The deputy says everything is fine. Evelyn grabbed her supervisor with one hand and pointed at the open incident screen. By the time the supervisor reached her station, Evelyn was already dispatching a second and third unit. Officer down, possible. Immediate response, 148 County Line Road. The banging on Madeline's door stopped. A wet, dragging sound replaced it. Moving away, out of the room, then the child whispered, "It's going downstairs." Evelyn forced air into her lungs. "Listen to me, Madeline. I need you to stay exactly where you are." "No," Madeline said. "Why no?" "Because if it puts on his face first." The child stopped, and when she spoke again, her voice was smaller than before. Smaller in the true way, not the childish way. They'll let it through the door. Very long. Outside the communications center, rainwater crawled down the windows in silver threads somewhere behind Evelyn. Another operator answered a rollover crash on Highway 11. A printer spat out address labels with indifferent mechanical rhythm. Everything in the room remained normal. That was what made it worse, because at 148 County Line Road, normal had already ended. "Madeline," Evelyn said, each word measured. "Is there another way out of the laundry room?" "No. I. Window? Can you barricade the door?" "It doesn't push like people do." Very long. Evelyn didn't know what to say to that, so she fell back on procedure. "Can you tell me what's in the room with you?" A pause. Then the child began listing objects in a tone so calm it raced gooseflesh along Evelyn's arms. Washer, dryer, blue basket, bottle of bleach, yellow towel, shoes, 3 shoes. Evelyn blinked. 3. Yes. Why 3? There was a long silence. Then Madeline said, "Because one of them came back without the foot." Very long. 2 more unit markers were converging on the address now. State Highway Patrol had also acknowledged. Evelyn's supervisor was on a landline with the sheriff, and still Line 4 stayed open, as if the house itself didn't want to be disconnected yet. "Madeline," Evelyn said, "I need you to keep talking to me." "About what?" "About anything. About your room. About school. About your dad." The word "dad" changed something, not in the girl's voice, in the air around it. "He left," she said. "When? Do you know where he went?" There was a tiny rustle, as if she had shifted the phone from one ear to the other. Then, "He went into the crawl space, because my mother said something was scratching under the kitchen." Evelyn didn't move. "And?" "He came back," Madeline said. A long silence followed. Then the girl added, "But he came back standing up too straight, very long." The second unit arrived, then the third. Traffic flooded the law channel all at once. Porch clear, backside clear, power on inside. 1 county cruiser running with driver door open. No visual on Collins. Evelyn relayed the child's last known location and heard herself say the words, "possible child," barricaded in laundry room, as if they belonged to some other dispatcher in some other county, talking about an ordinary crisis, but nothing about the address felt ordinary now. One of the responding deputies, Brenner, came over the radio. Dispatch, confirm child caller's name. Madeline, female, approximate age 8, copy. We have a female at the upstairs landing. Evelyn's mouth went dry. Adult or child? A pause. Then Brenner said, can't tell, long. The radio cracked with movement, boots on wood flooring, breathing, commands shouted and swallowed by the acoustics of the house. Then another voice cut through, Collins. Or Collins's voice, second floor clear. All 3 responding units went silent. So did Evelyn, because Collins had not checked in, because his cruiser was outside and he was not. Brenner came back first, voice strained now. Dispatch. Who just transmitted on 16's channel? Evelyn stared at the active unit display. Unit 16 was still lit, but the GPS tag attached to Collins's car and body mic had separated. The cruiser icon remained in the driveway. The body mic icon was moving through the house, slowly. Unit 16, transponder active inside structure, Evelyn said. Brenner swore under his breath. Then, we have visual. On. Bathroom mirror. Silence. A different deputy asked, what the hell is that? Brenner snapped. Nobody look at it. Too late. The open line from the house, filled with a low, wet, cracking sound. Not from Madeline's end, from one of the deputies' radios. Something like joints being forced past where they should go. Then, a man began screaming, hard, animal hard, the kind of scream that stripped rank, training, dignity, and language out of a person, all at once. Madeline didn't scream. She whispered, almost to herself, it's making another one. Evelyn pressed both hands to the desk to stop them from shaking. The supervisor mouthed something to her, keep her talking, as if she needed the reminder. Madeline, Evelyn said, her throat tight. Where is the crawl space? In the kitchen. In. Can you get there? No. Why? Because the hallway is where it listens, long. Upstairs in the house, over radio and background line noise, someone shouted, get out of the mirror, and the rest vanished in static. Then came rapid footsteps, a gunshot, another, a man choking. And then, abruptly, quiet, the kind of quiet that follows a fight only when one side is no longer moving. Evelyn realized she had been holding her breath and let it out too quickly. On line 4, Madeline, I'm here. When they stopped sounding scared, the child hesitated. Don't let them back outside. Very long. The first part ends there. The house that kept calling back. Part 2. For the first time in 11 years, Evelyn wanted to take her headset off. Not because she was overwhelmed. Not because she was afraid of hearing what came next. Because some primitive part of her nervous system had started insisting, with the full force of instinct, that whatever was happening at 148 County Line Road should not be heard from a distance. It should not be carried. It should not be repeated. and it absolutely should not be allowed inside a room full of radios. But the line was still open, and Madeline was still alive. At least, Evelyn thought she was. That was the problem now, not new. Long. On the Law Channel, no one spoke for almost 8 full seconds. 8 seconds was a lifetime on an active scene. 8 seconds meant someone was hurt, or hiding, or dead, or staring at something so far outside their understanding that their training had gone silent. Then Brenner came back over the radio. His voice was low, rigid, and so tightly controlled that Evelyn immediately understood whatever confidence he had brought into that house was already gone. Dispatch, a breath. Then, we need county fire and EMS staged at the gate. Copy, Evelyn said. Status. Another beat of silence. Then, Deputy Mercer is down. In the background, someone else was breathing too fast. A third deputy. Weller, she thought. The one with 6 years on and 2 kids. Evelyn pulled up the EMS board and began assigning units automatically. Hands moving, mouth speaking, mind splitting in two. One part operating by procedure, the other listening for something in Brenner's tone. Something he wasn't saying. Nature of injuries, she asked. We don't know. She stopped typing for a fraction of a second. Didn't know meant no visual or no explanation. Conscious? We don't know. Another silence. Then, more quietly, he's moving. On line 4, Madeline whispered. He shouldn't be. Evelyn didn't answer her immediately, because now there were 2 realities unfolding at once. The one inside the farmhouse, and the one inside Dispatch. And she had begun to suspect, with the slow, awful certainty that only comes from recognizing a pattern too late, that they were no longer separate. And the sheriff came up behind her station. Not loudly, not dramatically. He simply arrived, coffee abandoned somewhere, jacket half-buttoned, eyes on the console. What do we have? Possible active threat, unknown number of injured officers, child caller still inside residence. The sheriff leaned in just enough to see the open logs. His gaze stopped on one line. Caller states deputies must not look in upstairs bathroom mirror. He read it twice, then said very carefully, "What kind of scene am I walking into?" Evelyn wanted to give him a useful answer, a normal answer, domestic, hallucination, meth house, hostage, anything with edges, anything that fit into words men like him had been using for 30 years. Instead, she said, "I don't know yet." Long. At the house, Brenner spoke again. We found Mercer. Location? Condition? Another pause. Then Weller's voice cut in, unexpectedly. Not controlled like Brenner. Not professional. Just raw. Something crashed in the background. A body hitting porcelain or tile. Then Brenner snapped. "Step back." I said step back. Describe the scene. This time Brenner took longer to answer. When he did, every word sounded chosen, against some pressure he didn't want to let into speech. Mercer is alive. He's conscious? Add, no. Then, what do you mean, alive? Brenner exhaled once through his nose. He's standing very long. Nobody in the communications room moved. Even the sheriff stopped. There are statements which are so wrong that the mind does not reject them at first. It simply delays, hoping context will arrive and repair them. No context came. On line 4, the child said, "Did he look?" Evelyn swallowed. Who? The deputy in the mirror actually looked at him. He had gone pale around the mouth, not because he believed in ghosts, not because he believed the child, because he had heard fear in Brenner's voice, and Brenner was not a man who spooked easy. "Brenner," the sheriff said, taking the spare console mic from beside Evelyn's monitor. "This is Sheriff Dunning. I want a direct answer. What is Deputy Mercer doing?" Brenner answered instantly, facing the mirror. The sheriff paused, then, "Move him." A long silence followed. Then Brenner said, "We tried." "What happened?" Another breath. Then he bit Weller. The EMS board on Evelyn's monitor flashed as responding medics checked in at the perimeter. She acknowledged them automatically. Her pulse had begun beating in her throat now, a dry mechanical pounding that made every other sound in the room feel both sharper and farther away. "Madeline," she said softly into line 4, "I need you to tell me about the mirror." When she did, she sounded farther from the phone than before, as if she had turned her head toward the laundry room door. While speaking, it isn't always a mirror. Evelyn kept her tone even. "What do you mean?" "Sometimes it's the microwave door. A beat. Sometimes it's the TV if it's off. Another beat. Sometimes it's the window over the sink after dark." Evelyn typed as fast as she could, though her fingers had begun making mistakes. The sheriff watched the screen while she entered each sentence. "Madeline," Evelyn asked, "what happens if someone looks?" A long pause. Then, "It shows them someone coming back from where?" "It never says." Long. The radio channel erupted suddenly with shouts, footsteps, furniture overturning. Brenner yelling for hands, for restraints, for Weller to get out of the room. Then, another voice entered the chaos. Mercer's voice, or what should have been Mercer's voice. But it wasn't saying words. It was laughing, not loudly, not hysterically. A low, wet, pleased sound, like a person who had finally found the exact tool they'd been searching for. Very long. Then, over all of it, came Collins's voice, perfectly clear, from somewhere deeper in the house. "Dispatch. Second floor clear." Weller shouted, "That's him again." The transmission clipped. Then, static. Evelyn checked Unit 16's body mic icon again. It had moved, not toward the bathroom, not toward the stairs. It was now in the kitchen, right over the floor plan square, marked with old assessor data as service hatch, crawl, access. She stared at the screen, then at the incident address, then back to Madeline's call, and for the first time, a thought entered her mind so unwelcome, she almost physically recoiled from it. What if the house had not merely trapped the people inside it? What if it had methods, routines, openings? What if this had been happening there long enough for those openings to become part of the structure itself? Madeline, she said, forcing herself to stay methodical. How long have you been in the laundry room? Since before the deputy got here. No, I mean before tonight. Silence. Then, I don't know. Do you know what day it is? What month? Another pause. Then, with the flat honesty of a child who sees no reason to perform certainty she doesn't possess, I thought it was still cold, very long. Evelyn looked at the intake sheet again. It was early June, rainy and cool, yes, but not winter, not even close. She lowered her voice further. Madeline, when was the last time you were outside? Static hissed softly on the line. Then, when my dad came back wrong, the sheriff closed his eyes once, only once. Then he opened them and spoke without looking away from the monitors. Patch me through to Brenner direct. Evelyn did. Brenner, Denning said. Listen very carefully. Do not engage any reflective surface in that residence. Remove your men and extract the child if possible. If not possible, pull out and hold perimeter. There was a long pause before Brenner answered. When he did, the sound was muffled, as if he had clamped one hand over the radio mic and turned his head while speaking. Sheriff, the front door is gone. Very long. No one reacted immediately. Not because they hadn't heard him, because the sentence had no place to land. What do you mean gone? Dunning asked. It's not there anymore. You locked, destroyed. No. Brenner sounded winded now. Not from running, from looking. There's just wall. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Rear exit, same. Windows? Can't break them. Then, after a beat, it sounds stupid when I say it out loud, Evelyn whispered, almost to herself. No, it doesn't. Long? On line 4, Madeline said, it changes the easy ways first. Evelyn turned slightly in her chair, one hand still on the keyboard. What changes the easy ways? The child answered in the same tone she used to describe laundry detergent and shoes. The house under the house. Very long. That phrase stayed in the room. It felt childish at first, then not childish at all. Evelyn typed it exactly as spoken. The sheriff saw her do it and did not tell her to stop. No one was laughing anymore. No one was suggesting psychosis. The room had already crossed that bridge without saying so aloud. At the farmhouse, Weller came back on channel, His voice was shaky, not because he was panicking now, because panic had already happened, and what remained was the rattled, disbelieving aftermath. "Sheriff," the mirrors cracked. Dunning answered immediately. "Good. Keep it that way." "No," Weller said. "A beat. Something's trying to come through it." 3 stations down from Evelyn, another incoming 911 line began flashing. Operator Jensen picked it up, listened for 3 seconds, and turned so fast her chair wheels squealed against the floor. "Evelyn," she said, not loudly, "I think this is your house." Evelyn stared at her. Jensen hit the monitor share key. The new call populated on the wall display. No phone number, no ANI data, no carrier origin. Address field, 148 County Line Road. Long. The room temperature seemed to drop. That was ridiculous, of course. Fluorescent-lit government offices do not respond to fear like haunted basements in stories. And yet, something had changed. Evelyn could feel it in the air pressure, in the silence between keystrokes, in the way every person in the room had unconsciously stopped shifting in their chairs. Jensen mouthed, "You take it." Evelyn transferred line 8 into a split monitor and opened the audio. No breathing this time. Just the sound of a phone lying somewhere, open in a large room. Rain outside, something ticking. And very far away, a child humming. Evelyn said nothing at first. Neither did the caller. Then, line 4, the line with Madeline, clicked softly, as if someone had covered the receiver with a hand. And on line 8, a woman began to speak. Not the mother, not Madeline. Evelyn knew that at once. This voice was older, calmer, and tired in a way that suggested not one bad night, but years. "If you can hear this," the woman said, "don't send anyone else inside. Very long." The sheriff turned to Evelyn. She put one finger up to silence him. The woman continued, "It copies urgency first, because urgency opens doors." In the background, the child humming continued at the same volume, same rhythm, same unbroken sweetness. The woman kept speaking over it. "If you ask my name, it will start using it. So don't." Evelyn's skin prickled along both arms. The cadence of the warning, not frantic, not speculative, experienced. "Are you in the house now?" Evelyn asked. The woman answered immediately, "Yes." "Where?" A pause, then, in the room behind the pantry, Evelyn pulled up the old tax schematics again. No room behind the pantry was listed. "Who are you?" she asked before she could stop herself. The woman sighed, not annoyed, resigned. "You never keep from asking that." At the exact same moment, Madeline whispered on line 4, "It heard you." Everything accelerated after that. At the house, Brenner shouted for everybody to kill their lights. Weller yelled that something was moving through the walls. Not in the walls, through them, as if plaster and timber had ceased to be barriers and become membrane. Then came a sound, over multiple open mics at once. A knock. One knock. Measured. Polite. Somewhere inside the farmhouse. Then another. Then another. Closer each time. As if whatever was knocking did not need doors to reach a room. Only permission. Long. Madeline. Evelyn said quickly. Is it coming back to you? No. Ah. Then where is it going? Ah. A beat. Then to where you are. Very long. For one unreal second. Evelyn thought the child meant metaphorically. Then the center's rear maintenance door alarm chimed. Once. Softly. The room went still. That door led to a fenced service lot behind the building. No public access. No visitors. No reason at all for it to open at 2:43 in the morning during steady rain. The sheriff turned. So did everyone else. The alarm chimed again, not the full intrusion tone, just the sensor acknowledgement. Open, close, open, close, Jensen whispered. Nobody went back there. No one answered. Evelyn kept her headset on, kept one hand on the desk, and listened, because buried under the room's sudden silence, under the alarm chime, under the air conditioning and fluorescent hum, she could hear something else, a faint, wet, dragging sound. On line 8, the unknown woman spoke one last time. When it can't get out through the people, it starts using the calls. The line went dead, very long. On the wall map, new address data began flashing red. Not one location, several, all rural, all isolated, all receiving callback attempts from the center within the last 2 hours. And now, each one showing the same impossible origin metadata as 148 County Line Road, blank number, valid address, as if houses had begun dialing. At the farmhouse, Brenner came through with the hard, clipped clarity of a man who had made a decision simply because decisions were better than terror. Sheriff, we are falling back to the staircase. Where's the child? Negative contact. Where's Collins? A pause. Then, everywhere we're not looking. Very long. Part 2. Ends there. The house that kept calling back. Part 3. For the first time since the call began, Evelyn took her hand off the keyboard. Not because there was nothing left to type, because typing implied control. And control was gone. The maintenance door alarm stopped. Not gradually. Not fading. It just ceased. No reset tone. No confirmation beep. Just silence. Very long. The sheriff moved first. Not toward the door, toward the security monitor. Pull the back feed, he said. Jensen tapped the keys. The screen flickered. Then came online. The rear service lot appeared. Wet asphalt, chain link fence, dim security light. Empty, but not untouched. The gate was open, just slightly, moving. Not from wind, not from pressure, from weight. Something had passed through it. Recently. Evelyn felt it then. Not fear, recognition. The same feeling she'd had when the first address populated with no number. This wasn't random. It followed rules. And now the rule had changed. On line 4, Madeline whispered. It found another way out. Long. Evelyn didn't answer because for the first time, she wasn't sure Madeline was inside the house anymore. Madeline, she said carefully, are you still in the laundry room? A pause. Then, I think so. Very long. The words were correct. The tone was not. Something about the way she said think felt new, like uncertainty had been introduced into something that had previously been absolute. Long. Evelyn's eyes moved slowly away from her monitor, toward the back hallway of the dispatch center. The door, the one with the alarm, it was closed, perfectly closed, but the handle was wet, very long, not dripping, not soaked, just damp enough to catch the overhead light, like something had touched it with hands that had come in from the rain. No one moved, no one spoke. Even the sheriff didn't give an order, because there are moments, rare, specific moments, when authority collapses, not from fear, but from the absence of a correct decision. Long. Then, the radio. Collins. Every head turned. The voice was clean, calm, normal. Evelyn 16. Evelyn said slowly, identify your location. A pause, then inside. Long? Inside where? She asked. Inside where you are. Very long. Jensen's chair scraped backward. Not loudly, but enough. The sound echoed. Too much. As if the room had grown larger, or emptier. Evelyn didn't turn, didn't look behind her, because something had just become clear. Looking was part of it. Collins, she said, state your last known position. Silence. Then, something new. Multiple voices, layered, saying the same thing. Inside, very long. The radio cut out. Every monitor flickered. Then stabilized. And when they came back, addresses were still there. But now, there were more. Not flashing. Not alerting. Just added quietly. Evelyn leaned closer. Each one had the same pattern. No phone number, valid address, and all of them had been contacted by dispatch. Very long. That's not possible, Jensen whispered. Evelyn didn't respond because she could see the timestamps. The calls had been made from inside the system without input. Long line 4. Madeline spoke again, but softer now, thinner. It's learning the paths. Long. Evelyn closed her eyes for half a second. Madeline, she said, what happens when it learns all of them? The answer came immediately. It doesn't need the house anymore. Very long. The overhead lights flickered. Once, twice, then the backup generator kicked in. but the power hadn't gone out, which meant something else had triggered it. The sheriff finally spoke. "Kill external lines." Evelyn's head snapped toward him. "That cuts off real emergencies. It also cuts off whatever this is." A pause. He wasn't wrong, but neither was she. Line 8 lit up again. Same address. Jensen didn't touch it. Evelyn did. She answered. Silence. Then, her own voice. "County Emergency Services. What is your location?" Because everyone had already accepted it, the line repeated. "County Emergency Services. What is your location?" Exactly the same. Perfect. Madeline whispered, "It's practicing. Very long. And somewhere deep inside the system, a new call was placed. And this time, someone answered. The house that kept calling back. Part 4. Number 1 turned off the lines. Not because they chose not to, because no one could agree on what off meant anymore. Evelyn's screen was still alive, still receiving, still sending. Even after she removed her hands, that was the first thing she understood. The system didn't need her anymore. Very long. On the map, the addresses continued to grow, not flashing, not alarming, just appearing. One by one, like thoughts, being added to something that had just learned how to think. The sheriff stepped back from the console, slowly, carefully. Not out of fear, out of instinct, like he had just realized he was standing too close to something that didn't understand boundaries. "Unplug it," he said. No one moved, because they all knew on line 4, Madeline was still there, still breathing, still present, but thinner now, fainter, like distance had been introduced into something that wasn't supposed to have distance. "Madeline," Evelyn said softly, "listen to me carefully. Tell me about the house, under the house." Very long. A long silence followed. Then, for the first time since the call began, Madeline hesitated. "It doesn't have walls," she said. Evelyn typed slowly. What does it have? A shape. What kind of shape?" Another pause. Longer this time. The same shape as the house. Very long. Evelyn stopped typing. The sheriff leaned closer again. Neither of them spoke, because they both understood at the exact same moment. Not beneath. Inside. "Madeline," Evelyn said carefully. "Is the house under the house bigger?" "Yes." "How much bigger?" Madeline answered immediately. "It depends on how many people it remembers." Very long. The room seemed to shrink, not physically, but perceptually, like space itself had become unreliable. On the wall display, a new set of data appeared. Not addresses, call durations, every call made, from the system over the last 3 hours, all of them still active. That's not possible, Jensen whispered again. Evelyn didn't answer because she could see it. None of the calls had ended. They had only expanded. Madeline, she said when it learned someone, what happens to them? A long silence, then very long. The back hallway light flickered once, then again, this time. It didn't come back fully. Half the hallway remained dim, half of it didn't. The sheriff turned, and for the first time, he made the mistake. He looked very long at the glass panel on the inside of the maintenance door. Not a mirror, but reflective enough. Evelyn saw it happen. Not clearly, but enough. His posture changed, just slightly. His shoulders straightened, too straight. His head tilted, just a fraction too slow. "Sheriff?" she said. No response. Then he spoke, but not to her. Unit 16, very long. It was Collins's voice. Perfect. Exact. Evelyn stood up. Her chair rolled backward. The sound was wrong. Too loud. Too isolated. Like it didn't belong in the same space anymore. "Do not look at reflective surfaces," she said. Not loudly, not as a command, as a fact. Jensen immediately turned her monitor brightness down. Another operator covered the glass of a framed certificate. Someone else reached for the overhead lights and then stopped because turning lights off would only create more reflection. On line 4, Madeline whispered, "It's not copying anymore." Evelyn swallowed. "What is it doing?" A pause. Then, "It's choosing very long." The sheriff, or what had been the sheriff, turned slowly, and this time, his eyes focused directly on Evelyn. For a moment, just one moment, she thought he was still there, still himself. Then he smiled. Not wrong, not broken, perfect. That was what made it worse. There was no flaw. It had learned. "Evelyn," it said, in her own voice, "we're receiving a call." Very long, every line lit up, dozens of them. No numbers, only addresses, and every single one was already connected. Very long. The room filled with voices, children, adults, operators, deputies, all speaking, all asking, all waiting, and beneath it, something else, a rhythm like a system, learning how to route itself. Madeline said, "One last thing. They're not calls anymore." Evelyn closed her eyes. "What are they?" The answer came softly. "They're doors." End part 4. The house that kept calling back. Part 5, final. No one tried to leave. Not because they couldn't, was no longer a direction. Long, the room was still there. Desks, monitors, headsets, but something fundamental had shifted. The space between things no longer behaved. Dozens, hundreds, all coming through the system, all asking something, all waiting for an answer. Evelyn stood in the center of it, headset still on, hands empty now because nothing she touched belonged to her anymore. The sheriff, or what had been him, stood across the room, watching, not moving, waiting, like everything else. "Evelyn," it said again, her voice perfect. "We need you to answer." Very long. She didn't respond, because now she understood. Not everything, not fully, but enough. It wasn't trying to replace people. That had only been the beginning. It was trying to understand something else. Choice, response, the moment between question and answer. Evelyn looked at the screens. Each call, a doorway, each voice, a threshold, each response, permission. That was the system. Not wires, not signals, agreement. On line 4, Madeline was still there, barely, like a voice, on the edge of being forgotten. "Evelyn, I'm here." A pause. "Don't answer them." Very long. Evelyn closed her eyes. She thought about the first call, the breathing, the question, the moment she had responded. That had been the first door. Not the house, not the mirror. "Madeline," she whispered, "how long have you been on the call?" A pause. Then, "I think, since you answered." Very long. Evelyn's breath caught. Not inside the house, not trapped there. Attached, connected. The system didn't take people. It kept them, as long as they stayed. Very slow, measured. "You understand now?" it said. Not a question. Recognition. Evelyn nodded. Yes, she did. "We need me to answer," she said, because saying it out loud made it real, made it visible, made it something she could refuse. The thing wearing the sheriff's face didn't react, because it didn't need to. It had already calculated the outcome. That was what people did. Long. The calls continued. "Hello? Can you hear me? Is anyone there?" Voices, layered, waiting. Evelyn reached up, slowly, and removed her headset. The sound didn't stop. It didn't lower, because it was no longer coming through the system. It was inside it. She placed the headset down, carefully, like setting something fragile or dangerous. Then she stepped back, away from the console, away from the screens, away from the calls. The sheriff tilted his head slightly, like something observing an unexpected variable. "And you will answer eventually," it said. Not threatening, certain. Evelyn shook her head. No, the room didn't react. But something deeper did. A call went unanswered. Long. On the map, one address disappeared. Not deleted. Released. Very long. Stronger. "Evelyn, I Here, I, a pause. Then, something opened. Evelyn turned. The maintenance door, still closed. But the darkness behind it was no longer still. Very long, it shifted, not like something entering, like something losing its hold. The sheriff stepped back, just one step, for the first time. Not gone, but interrupted, like a system encountering resistance. Long, Evelyn took another step back, then another, each unanswered call, weakening something, slowing it. Longer. Madeline whispered, "Keep going." Very long. Evelyn stopped because she understood something else now. If no one answered, it couldn't enter. But it also meant here. No one could leave. The room was quieter now, not silent, but different. Like something had been denied for the first time. Long. Evelyn looked at the screens. Hundreds of calls. Waiting. Endless. And then she looked at Madeline's line. Still open. Still connected. Evelyn. Yes. A pause. Am I still here? Evelyn closed her eyes. And for the first time, she didn't know how to answer. So, she didn't. The line stayed open. The system waited. And somewhere, deep inside it, something began to learn how to wait without being answered. Final line. Weeks later, calls still come in, no numbers. And sometimes, when a dispatcher hesitates just long enough, though they can hear a child's voice, quiet, fading, "Don't answer."